Hi, my name is Phil Gardner and welcome to Fun with Boxes. Today I'm taking a look at a rather special game, one we love very much indeed. It's just such a beautiful looking game with wonderful components, and it's not all just about how the game looks, it's a cracking game too. And this game is Aqua Garden from designer Totsuca and published by Uchibacoya Games. I do hope I pronounce your names correctly. We were lucky enough to pick this up on their last Kickstarter campaign and have been loving playing it and introducing it to people ever since. They did an expansion for the game called Beach Cumin and a reprint of the main game about 2 years ago, so we snaffled up everything we could get our hands on. This is such a delightful game that's fun to play and quite easy to pick up and learn too. Oh, and did I say it's beautiful? Just look at these. And what is the game about, you may well ask? Well, one day you become inspired to open an aquarium in your hometown, but you have a lot of work to do to make it stand out. First, you need to buy fish. Otherwise, it's not going to be much of an attraction, is it? Do you walk around the aquatic fair and buy some from there, or do you buy them direct from the fishermen? Either way, you will also need to focus on advertising to attract customers. And perhaps the hardest part will be deciding how to display the fish in your 6 aquarium tanks. Plus, you will need to consider all the requirements each creature has. Sea turtles love their seaweed, for example, and small and large fish are terribly afraid of sharks, as am I. And to top it all off, you only have one employee you can ask for help. So you have a lot of work to do if you want your aquarium to stand out from the others and win the respect of the town. Well, before we take a look at how to set up and play the game, let's take a quick Fun with Boxes look at what you get in a game of Aqua Garden. Okay, now let's take a look at how you set up the game, and then I will take you through how to play it. Setup. This is how you set up the game for 3 to 4 players. There are some changes for setting up a 2-player game though, but I will go through them at the end of this video, but it's all very similar. First, place the fair board and the sea board into the center of the table. Then take the 12 milestone cards and separate them into their 4 types: small and large fish, shark, sea turtle and seahorse milestones. Draw one of each type randomly and place them face up besides the fair board. For each of the milestone cards, find the matching milestone fish token shown in the upper right hand corner of the card and just place it besides that card. The milestone fish tokens are the same shape and size as the regular fish tokens, but they have different colours. Here they are for you to see. Next, we need to fill the cloth bag with the regular fish tokens. If playing with 4 players, simply put all 65 regular fish tokens into the cloth bag. But if playing with 3 players, remove the following 15 regular fish tokens and return them to the box: 5 small fish, 4 large fish, 2 sharks, 2 sea turtles, 1 seahorse and 1 whale shark. And then you put the remaining 50 regular fish tokens into the cloth bag. There are 12 advanced fish tokens included with the game, but keep these in the box. You would only use these if you were playing the advanced version of the game, and it's far better to start off with the normal version first. Also, if you have the Kickstarter version of the game, you will have these extra 12 advanced tokens to use in your game. The fair board consists of a number of connected spaces around the outside edge, starting in the upper left hand corner of the board and then proceeding clockwise. Randomly draw and place 1 fish token in each of the 15 light blue spaces like this. After you've done this, randomly draw 5 more fish tokens from the cloth bag and place them onto the sea board. One thing to mention about the fish tokens: once they get in the bag, it's still possible to feel them for their different shapes and know what they are before pulling them out. But do not do this. Always pull them at random, so no feeling, no matter how tempted you may be to do so. Then place all seaweed tokens and all coral tokens on the seaboard. Take one of the seaweed tokens from the seaboard and place it next to the sea turtle milestone card, which we placed down earlier. Pop the round marker onto the one space of the round track on the fair board, and then give each player an aquarium board and one fun token, which everyone places on space 2 of their funds track. This way, everyone will start the game with 2 funds. Shuffle the 5 feed-in event cards and deal one randomly to each player. These are placed to the right-hand side of their aquarium boards. Each player then chooses a colour and takes the owner token, the employee token, and the 4 achievement markers matching that colour. Everyone places their employee on the dotted diamond shape on their aquarium board and places one of their achievement markers besides each of the 4 milestone cards. Finally, randomly select the first player who places their owner token in the bottom space labelled first on the standby track. The other players then, in clockwise order, place their owner token in the next lowest empty space on the standby track. Unused components can be returned to the box and you are now ready to play. Game flow. Aqua Garden is played over 3 rounds when playing with 3 players and 4 rounds when playing with 4 players. After all rounds are completed, each player's final score is calculated and the player who gets the highest score will be the winner. Each of the game rounds will consist of an action phase that is completed by all players, followed by a preparation phase to set up the next round. Let's look at the action phase and how this works, as this is the main focus of the game. Action phase. At the beginning of each action phase, the player whose owner token is on the bottom space of the standby track takes the first turn. Then the person in second place, and then so on. Once everyone has played a turn, for the rest of the action phase, the player whose owner token is furthest back on the fair track will take their turn. And when performing your turn, you must move your owner token any number of spaces clockwise around the fair track. If, after you finish your turn, your owner token is still the furthest back on the fair track, then you will continue to take turns until your token is no longer the furthest back. The player who is now furthest back will then get to take their turn. And so play will continue like this. The flow of a turn. On your turn, you will carry out 2 steps in this order. First, move your owner token and then resolve an action or pass. This will then end your turn, and the player whose owner token is furthest back on the fair track takes the next turn. At some point you will have completed your walk around the fair and you will then pass. And once all players have passed, the action phase ends and we move on to the preparation phase. Moving your owner token. On your turn, you must move your owner token clockwise any number of spaces along the fair track. There's no limit to the number of spaces you can advance, but you must advance at least 1 space every turn. When you move, you cannot end your move on a space with another owner token. And at the start of your turn, if your owner's token is already on the last fish space on the fair track, or if there are no more spaces on the fair track that you want to advance to, you must move your owner token to the bottom available space on the standby track. You will then take no further actions until all players' tokens are on the standby track. Stopping on a fish space. First, take all the fish tokens in the fish space occupied by your token and place them next to your aquarium board. Then you must move your employee token on your board clockwise between 1 and 3 spaces. Each space is adjacent to 2 of the 6 water tanks on your board, and the fish tokens that you took from the fish space this turn must be placed into one of these tanks that are adjacent to your employee. If you took more than 1 fish token from a fish space, you can split the fish between the 2 water tanks, or you can place them all together in just 1 water tank. You can place the fish into your water tanks in any order, but you must follow the following rules. Each token placed in the water tank has its own oxygen consumption value, shown here. For example, a small fish consumes 1 oxygen, and a sea turtle will consume 2 points of oxygen. The amount of oxygen supplied to each water tank is only 4, so you must remember this limit. You cannot place a token in any tank if it will increase the amount of oxygen consumed to 5 or more. However, if the water tank contains a seaweed token, the amount of oxygen supplied will be increased by 2 for a total of 6 oxygen supplied, allowing you to potentially add more fish than you normally could. Also, small fish tokens cannot exist in the same aquarium as shark tokens. for obvious and pleasant reasons. They just don't get on, okay? This applies to the large fish tokens too. They may be slightly bigger than the small fish, but they are just as tasty to the sharks. And sad news for sea turtle tokens. You guessed it, yep, them sharks really do like to eat. So no mixing sea turtles and sharks, okay? But not only that, sea turtle tokens can only exist in water tanks where seaweed tokens are already placed in advance. If there is one seaweed token, there can be multiple sea turtle tokens, within the limit of oxygen consumption, of course. Be mindful though, when a seaweed token is removed from the water tank, all sea turtle tokens in that tank are also removed. So don't forget, shark tokens cannot exist in the same water tank as small fish, large fish, and sea turtle tokens. Otherwise, it will all get messy very quickly. So you have been warned. There is one other restriction. No more than one seaweed or coral token can exist in one water tank at the same time. But for all other tokens, there may be multiple of the same type within the limit of the oxygen consumption, of course, in one water tank. At any time during the game, you can remove any number and any type of tokens from your water tank and move them onto the seaboard in the center of the table. Also, if you do not want to place the fish tokens taken from the fairboard in your aquarium, you can move any number of them to the seaboard. However, tokens that have been moved to the seaboard will be available for purchase by all players during their turn, so bear this in mind. Purchasing fish from the seaboard. During your turn, you can purchase any available tokens from the seaboard in any combination and as many times as you wish after moving your employee token. You may do this immediately before placing the fish tokens taken from the fairboard and immediately after placing the fish. To purchase a token, pay 2 funds and place the token in either of the water tanks adjacent to your employee token, following the normal placement rules. Here is a general example for you. You've picked up a large fish and your worker is stopped here, next to these 2 aquariums. You already have a small fish in this one who consumes 1 oxygen, so you can add your fish to this one and the 2 fish get along just fine and now consume 2 oxygen. Remember, your tank normally supplies 4 oxygen. So these 2 fish are looking good at this moment. You could instead pop your fish into the other aquarium next to your worker. And this is what we decide to do. On a future turn in the game, you just move your worker and they are back here again right next to these 2 tanks. But this time you have picked up a sea turtle and a seahorse. Your sea turtle consumes 2 oxygen, so they could go into either tank. But sea turtles love seaweed, and neither of the 2 tanks have seaweed in them. So you cannot put the sea turtle into either of them. You would have to put it onto the seaboard instead. But as you have just moved your worker and have not yet placed any fish, you may purchase tokens from the seaboard. So let's grab a seaweed token, spend our 2 funds and place it here with our big fish. The seaweed takes up no oxygen and we do not have to worry about that. Now we can drop our sea turtle in and they are happy. Now this tank is consuming 3 oxygen and everything is fine. Lastly, we have our seahorse who only consumes 1 oxygen and gets on fine with all fish. So you can pop them into either of your tanks. Drop it in with the small fish, which is what we decide to do. As a final example, let's say that our worker has just finished moving and landed in the exact same space again. Only this time we picked up a shark and a sea turtle. We cannot put the shark into either tank, otherwise there will be carnage. So we have no option than to pop that onto the seaboard, achieving a milestone. When you are at a fish space after your employee token moves and at any time until you end your turn, you can achieve a milestone on one of the milestone cards, or even multiple milestones if you meet their requirements. The left side of the card has an illustration showing fish in a water tank. If one of your water tanks matches the illustration, then you have achieved that milestone. Take an achievement token of your color and place it in the uppermost vacant space on that milestone card, one of the numbered spaces on the right. If you were the first player to achieve this milestone, you also take the corresponding milestone tokens and immediately place them into your aquarium. And these can be placed in any water tank, regardless of the current position of your employee token. If you get multiple tokens, you can place them in the same water tank or in different water tanks. Of course, all the normal placement rules apply. Also, if you wish, you can make additional purchases just before the placement of these tokens, but any purchased tokens can only be placed in the aquarium where one or more milestone fish and seaweed tokens were placed. Each milestone fish token is treated exactly the same as the regular fish token of the same type and shape. The colour does not have any impact on the game, but the game designers wanted you to know that you have collected a rare fish and to be happy. Remember, if you meet the requirements, you can achieve multiple milestones in one turn. In addition, the same tokens in the same water tank can be used to achieve multiple milestones. When you have finished placing the fish tokens taken from your fairboard, made any additional purchases, and checked to see if you achieved any relevant milestones, then your turn is then over, stopping at an advertising space. Advertising spaces are the dark blue spaces on the fair track used for promoting your aquarium and raising funds. First, select one and only one of the 4 advertisements in the center of the fairboard. Each ad shows the type of tokens and how much money you can get for them. So if you select the small fish ad, you get 1 fund for every 2 small fish tokens on your aquarium board. For the large fish ad, you get 1 fund for each large fish token on your aquarium board. For the shark ad, you get 1 fund for each shark token on your aquarium board, plus you get 1 fund for each coral token. And the sea turtle ad gives you 1 fund for each sea turtle on your board, plus 1 fund for each coral token. Once you get the money, your turn is over, and you slide your funds token on the track to indicate how much funds you've received. When you stop in the advertising space, you cannot move your employee token, and you cannot make additional purchases from the seaboard, nor can you achieve any milestones. So please bear that in mind. Players continue taking turns until all players have moved all the way around the fair track and placed their owner tokens onto the standby track. Once all players have placed their owner tokens on the standby track, move on to the preparation phase. But if this is the final round, instead move on to final score calculation. Preparation phase. During this phase, we set up for the next round. Randomly draw fish tokens from the cloth bag and place 1 in each fish space on the fairboard in clockwise order, starting from the space on the upper left of the fairboard, just as you did during setup. If a space already has a fish token left over from previous rounds, add the new fish token to it. Then move the round marker on the round track down 1 space. And finally, the player whose owner token is in the bottom space of the standby track becomes the new start player and starts the next round. Keep on playing until the end of the final round, where you will then calculate everyone's scores. But before we look at how to do this, there are 2 other things that you can do during your action phase. You can move your employee extra spaces. When you move your employee, they can usually only move 1 to 3 spaces. However, you may pay funds to move extra spaces if you wish. Each extra space costs 1 fund, and you may move at most 2 extra spaces. And now on to the second thing you can do. And this uses the event card you place to the right of your aquarium. This is the feeding event, and it could gain you extra income each time your employee passes this event card. Feeding event. On the right hand side of your aquarium board, there is a feeding event icon between 2 carpet spaces. If your employee token moves across this icon, you immediately resolve the feeding event. When a feeding event occurs, you will get 1 fund as income. In addition, depending on the success of the event, you may earn additional funds. The 2 water tanks adjacent to the space of the feeding event icon are called the event tanks and are used to judge the success of the feeding event. Check how many sets of tokens shown on your feeding event card are in the 2 event tanks. You may make a set with tokens in the 2 different event tanks. You will then get an amount of money equal to the number of matching sets times the amount shown on the event card. Remember, you'll always get one fund, but if you manage to match sets, you will get additional funds. Here's an example. You have a feed-in event card which gives you funds for each set of one large fish token plus one sea turtle token. There is one large fish and one sea turtle in the upper tank and one large fish in the lower tank. This means you have one completed set of the required fish from your feed-in event card. So if your employee token passes the feed-in event icon now, you will immediately receive 2 funds. One fund as income plus one fund for the matching set on the event card. The feed-in event does not stop your employees' movement, so please remember to get your funds after you pass the event. Plus, don't forget any funds you have can then be used to move your employee up to 2 further spaces. As you can see by the funds track, the most funds you can ever have is 15, and anything gained in excess of this will be lost. Okay, on to the scoring. End of game and score calculation. There are a couple of things that you will be scoring. First, you will score the tokens in your aquarium. 3 victory points for each set of one small fish token and one large fish token that all live in the same tank. Then score the following across all 6 tanks. 2 victory points for each sea turtle token, 2 victory points for each shark token, 2 victory points for each seahorse token, 4 victory points for each whale shark token, and 1 victory point for each coral token. Seaweed tokens do not score victory points, though they did help you out with the oxygen during your game. Next, score any surplus funds. You earn 1 victory point for every 3 funds remaining on your funds track. Then score the milestone cards. For each milestone card, check the number next to the achievement space with your coloured achievement marker and score victory points equal to that number. Finally, check the number shown to the side of the space occupied by your owner token on the standby track and get victory points equal to that number. Then add up all your points and the player with the most wins and is very, very happy. And all the other players get to look at their fish in their aquarium and are also happy, but just not quite as happy as the winner. And there you have it. That's how you set up and play a 3 to 4 player game of Aqua Garden. What about 2 players, Phil? I hear you excitedly ask with wonder. Well, let me tell you about Lucy. Play with 2 players. First set the game up as you would if playing with 3 players, because Lucy is going to join in as you play. Take an owner token from one of the unused colours to represent Lucy. During setup, Lucy will be placed in the top space of the standby track. As you play the game, if Lucy is in the rearmost position on the fair track, move Lucy to the space 1 ahead of the owner token that is furthest forward on the fair track. If Lucy stops at a space with a fish, move all the fish tokens in that space and immediately place them onto the seaboard. If Lucy stops at an advertising space, nothing will happen. And when Lucy goes to the standby track, Lucy is placed in the lowest empty space, just as would be the case in a 3 to 4 player game. At the start of the round, if Lucy is in the lowest space in the standby track, move Lucy to the first space with a fish and immediately move all fish tokens in that space to the seaboard. The game ends at the end of the 3rd round, and victory points are calculated just in the same way as with playing with 3 or 4 players. Lucy does not get any victory points. They are just happy to have helped collect fish and put them back into the sea. There are advanced rules that you can introduce once you are used to playing the main game. Plus, there is a solo mode that you can play, all of which are covered in the rulebook. Well, there you go, Aqua Garden. What a brilliant, beautiful, fun game to play. Nice and straightforward, with plenty to think about, without slowing down the gameplay. This is such a wonderful game. It really is. One that I would highly recommend anyone to try out, whether new to board games or a seasoned veteran. It's just a damn fine game with wonderful, wonderful game components. I love those little fish. You also have the additional game modes to keep the game fresh, plus some extras if you have the Kickstarter version. All in all, 2 fishy, fun with boxes, thumbs up for this classic, brilliant game. Depending where you live in the world, this game may prove difficult to get hold of, but the company have just finished a Kickstarter campaign for another of their games called Ostia and its expansion Pirates. The late pledge for this is still open as I film this episode, and I believe that you will be able to get Aqua Garden as part of the add-ons, so check that out quickly if you are interested in this game. Plus you can get a ton of expansions for the game too. I have also backed Ostia. I've heard great things about this game, and the fact that it's from the people that brought me Aqua Garden, well, it was a no-brainer for me to back their latest game. Well, I do hope that you have enjoyed taking a look at Aqua Garden with me. Please like and subscribe if you've not done so already. And as always, thanks so much for watching. Please take care and bye for now.